Herman Webster Mudgett once said, "I was born with the devil in me. I could not help the fact that I was a murderer, no more than a poet can help the inspiration to sing. I was born with the evil one standing as my sponsor beside the bed where I was ushered into the world, and he has been with me since." This building, finished in 1890, was built by Herman Webster Mudgett. He called it the World's Fair Hotel and was later changed to the Castle. The construction of the castle started after he convinced his boss at a local drugstore to let him take over. They took advantage of the location right by the World's Fair in Chicago to draw in a lot of customers. The idea was that Mudgett and his boss would become wealthy from the business brought by the fair. However, unknown to anyone else, Mudgett had other plans for the hotel. As it was started, construction of the hotel was delayed because he constantly fired and hired new people. While that seemed like inexperience at work, he was actually moving people to keep anyone from knowing the true layout of the hotel. The hotel had been built as what people would later call a murder castle.
Imagine dinner with your family, your regular family, suddenly discovering a secret so profound as to destroy all perspective gained in 40 years of a quote-unquote normal life. Being told that your great-great-grandfather was Herman Mudgett, better known as Dr. HHHolmes. So with the opportunity Ted has given me, and with your help, I'd like to go a long way today toward taking a giant step in fulfilling my destiny. While researching my grandfather's secret, I soon realized that little of the legend had been accurately recorded. Created by one, repeated by many others, parts of the story were now being considered as historic nonfiction. Incorrectly so. A different perspective was required. We needed the complete elimination of all confirmational bias if we were ever to have the truth. And I'd like to prove it to you tonight. How? Why that Dr. HHHolmes, the most prolific serial killer in history, was also, in fact, Jack the Ripper.
The first floor of the murder castle had stores. The upper levels had Holmes' office with over 100 rooms that were used for the guests. Most of these rooms were soundproof. The rooms also contained gas lines so that Holmes could asphyxiate his guests. The hotel had trapdoors, holes, stairways that led to brick walls, and metal chutes that were linked to the basement. The basement had a dissecting table, stretching rack, and crematory. He would send the bodies down the passageway, then he would dissect them. To make money, he would take the flesh off the corpses and send them to medical schools as models. If he didn't want to sell them, he would put them in acid.
He was able to outsmart his victims by luring the mistress's guests and employees higher into the building where they would ultimately lose their lives. The upper floors consisted of many different traps that helped Holmes murder his victims. Some of the contraptions included gas chambers, hanging rooms, and mutilation. Where Holmes was attending medical school, he would conduct a scam in which he would file life insurance policies on fictitious family members and then steal cadavers from the school's lab to pose as the deceased. Holmes continued this practice throughout his stay at the hotel. However, he no longer used cadavers. He was now forcing his workers to get rid of life insurance that benefited himself. Holmes was not loyal to anyone. For his methods of torture, he would lock his victims in small hidden chambers within the hotel walls, and he would suffocate them with toxic gas, and hang them in a windowless room in the center of the hotel. He would even keep them trapped in a secret bank vault inside his office for days in order to starve them to death.
All of Holmes' employees, hotel guests, and wives were forced to have life insurance policies. Holmes paid them if they listed him as the beneficiary. Most of these people would suddenly disappear. People living near the hotel told police that they saw many people enter the hotel, but would never see them exit. There were many victims who met a tragic fate, including another suffocated victim, 2 pregnant women, and a witness of one of the murders. Holmes confessed to killing over 100 people at the hotel, but they later found some of the victims he claimed to kill were still alive. Then he changed his story to say that he only killed 27. Holmes switched around his words a lot, and that is why we don't know exactly how many people he has killed. He was said to have killed over 200 people. Most of Holmes' victims were single young women. He chose people who did not have any family or friends living nearby. Some people did not arrive at the hotel with anyone. Since communication was not as it is today, most families or friends went years without speaking to each other. With no one around, it would be difficult for them to claim it was Holmes, so no one would suspect anything if someone just disappeared. Holmes was able to send investigators and family on wild goose chases, claiming that they went to California. It would take months to search and find nothing. Since the World's Fair ended, Chicago did not make much money, so Holmes gave up on the hotel and began traveling around the U.S. making insurance scams, along with Benjamin Peitzel, as well as making a bunch of random murders, stealing horses, shipping them, and eventually selling them. He was caught in an illegal transaction and was sent to jail. During his jail time, he met someone with the name Marion Hedgepath. He made a new insurance scam with Hedgepath. Holmes claimed he would take out a policy for himself for $10,000, fake his own death, and then give Hedgepath $500 for anything he needed at the time. Holmes was eventually released on bail and attempted his insurance scam. However, the insurance company got suspicious of it and did not pay him. When Hedgepath did not get his money, he became angry at Holmes. He compromised with the police and told his lawyers about Holmes' plan, and police were sent to track Holmes down. He was eventually found in Boston and was arrested. During his arrest, he informed police about his murder castle and the murders that went on inside of it. Then he was held on warrant. It had seemed Holmes was prepared to flee the country. The police were suspicious, so Chicago police searched Holmes' murder castle, finding his efficient methods for committing horrific murders. The located bodies were badly dismembered and decomposed, so it was difficult for them to determine exactly how many bodies there really were. The police investigation spread through Chicago, Indianapolis, and Toronto. While investigating in Toronto, police found bodies of Peitzel's children who had gone missing during Holmes' insurance fraud. Accusing Holmes of their murder, police arrested him immediately. For all the crimes Holmes committed, he was hanged on May 7, 1896. Some say Holmes would have gotten caught with Hedgepath or not. However, this is not true. The police had no evidence that Holmes was the one who killed the victims. Most thought the murder castle was a regular hotel. The police were not suspicious of Holmes since he was a normal hotel owner. The site was disgusting, yet when I looked upon it and realized that at least 20,000 would come to me after a little further trouble, I gazed on it as a very good investment which was about to mature. This quote from HHHolmes shows he was willing to overlook a dead body just for the money. What might have happened had Hedgepath not compromised? How much longer would Holmes have continued to murder people? It's impossible to know for sure, but the tale of the murder castle is one that intrigues many people. Overall, Holmes was a very demented man. He rarely had any sympathy for anyone he killed. He's the only one that truly knows how many people were murdered inside the murder castle.